What's up, YouTube? So I'm just gonna jump right into it. I've been wanting to make this video for a quick minute, but I guess you know, I'm not sure what I'm gonna call this yet, but I just want to kind of put the pros and cons of each craft that I did as a CCA and an RCA. Let's jump right into it. So for CCA, I think the number one pro is the pay. The way that you make, I won't say you do make more money compared to a rural carrier. So rural carriers, CCAs you start out 1852, then you go up within, I want to say with the new contract you go up after 90 days 50 cents, and then you have to wait the 54 weeks, your 1 year mark, to get another 50 cents. But between those, they do have in the contract, you get an increase. We just had ours in November, so there'll be another one in November. But I think number one is the pay. People with the pay as a CCA start out 1852. So just to kind of break it down, after 8 hours, they don't do it like a regular job where you get 40. After 40 hours, you get paid overtime. No, after 8 hours, you're in overtime. After 10 hours, you're in penalty. So penalty is double time. So let's say you do your 8 hours, you're at time and a half from that point. After that point, you're at double time after the 10 hours. So that's why you can make a lot of money in this job, and just kind of how motivated you are, and if you're willing to want more work, I guess the way to put it. The second pro is just being physically active in the job. There's a lot of walking. You're moving around. You will kind of stay fit with this job, just because all the active movement. I think the highest, there's one day I had I don't know, I think it was like 19 miles, 19 and a half miles. That was all walking. I had part of a piece from 2 routes. Next one, this is for anybody that likes to be in the outdoors. You're outside, you just kind of do your own thing. You're outside, it's a sunny day, you're like, man, I'm doing good. But just kind of, if you like being outdoors, I think this would be a good job for you. These are the type of things, the type of persons I think that would be able to handle this type of job. And then just to kind of go back with with the cons, kind of double back on the cons, is the weather. The weather also a factor. If you're cool with heat, this job's for you. You got your water and you're good, you're all right. Then it's on the other side of the spectrum. If you good with being in the cold, because you could layer up, and you're good at being all layered up and bundled up, that's so just kind of depending how your body, if you can't handle the heat, I don't know if this is a job for you. If you're out there, especially in these 10 LLVs, there's so much, the heat just cooks everything up in there. And then also in the cold, if you're out there in the snow, ice or whatever, the snow's coming right through your face, you're mad. What I'm saying? Another con is, this is a big one, is the time. It's just the work-life balance. It's just kind of being able to put a work and life balance, because I'm gonna let just kind of a quick example. You come in, got a route, someone calls out sick, they're like, hey, well, we're gonna pivot this route. So they start handing out pivots. Pivots are pieces of route, and they're like, hey, you're getting this hour and a half, you're getting this hour and a half, and you're getting this hour and a half. So that's the pro. Goes back to the pro, the pay. I'm gonna get overtime, whatever it is. But at the same time, you're like, if you have plans and you're like, man, someone called out sick, we all gain a piece, I had plans, ain't gonna happen. So that's, I think, one of the things, just kind of tough with that. So just trying to find that balance, because you could be working so many days straight, and you're like, your body starts to tell you like, or even if you wanted to plan something, you're like, man, I can't. So it's just one of those things. So take into consideration. But like I said, with my pros, you're physically active on this job, but at the same time it's physical on the job. So just a lot of repetitive motion of what you're doing, out the window, the elbow, the shoulder, twisting, bending. So when you kind of get up doing this, this job, you just be ready, to, if you haven't been physically active in a minute, you're gonna be sore, especially if they put you on a walking route, but those are my 3 pros and cons as a CCA. The next one, jump right into it, RCA, the pros and cons, that what I kind of felt when I was a rural carrier. So the pros, I don't know, this is different for every station. Take this with a grain of salt. Every station's different. Everybody's manages it their own station different. But a pro, what I felt was, most rural carriers will say it's all mounted. Mounted just mean driving. You're just driving, putting mail in mailboxes, because you got to think about it. You're out going toward houses that are more out in the rural, and so most likely they're gonna have their mailboxes set up to be outside, just to have their boxes put in outside of their house, not all the way up like a city. You're more in the city, where ours, we have to walk up to the door and put it in the door, or put it right by the mailbox. But that's a benefit. That's a pro to me. Like, you just stay up in your car. The only time you gain off is just drop a package off, if anything. The second one, their dress code. Rural carriers, they come in, man, they look like they're comfortable. They're up in their sweats. They're doing, they look relaxed. Especially, I think, with a job like this, you want to come in relaxed. Just kind of dressed up. Feel comfortable, however you want to dress. But they don't have a dress code. They could dress however they want to dress. So that's I think a pro. My third and last one, what I think is that I like about the rural, or being a rural carrier, was you're on evaluated routes. So let's say you come in, you're covering for your regular carrier, which they have 5 days. You come in for one of their days off, right? That day you're covering, and let's say you already have some time, the route down, you got it locked down. You cover that route, you case it up, you deliver it. You case it up and you deliver it, and you're done by 1, and there's no other work. You get to go home. You get paid for whatever it's evaluated at, whether it's 8 hours to 9 hours, whatever. You get paid that. That's my what I was like, oh man, that's cool. That was a benefit, especially if you start getting familiar with the route, and you're like, oh, I can knock this route in by 1:30, whatever, 2 o'clock, and then you have the rest of the day. So that's one of the pros I liked about it. Now let's go just back to the 3 cons that I have as an RCA. So when you're starting out, depending on the station, like I said, every station's different. You may have to use your POV, your personal own vehicle, and it was cool. It was cool being a rural carrier, because you got those evaluated routes. But at the same time, if you don't have, you're on a route, you're subbing for a regular that doesn't have the LLV, their routes doesn't have that, you're gonna be using your own vehicle, just kind of out your own vehicle. If it's not a van or like a Jeep or anything, you can be struggling. So I think that was one of the biggest cons for me, just because I had to use my own vehicle, and I was driving. What do they call it? I don't even know what they call it, but I was just driving in the middle of my vehicle, just trying to, especially if you're stretching, you're like, that was the number 1 con for me. So take that into consideration. My advice for you guys, if you're applying for, a rural carrier, is, they may give you a call, say, hey, do you want this position as a rural carrier, guaranteed 1 day a week? Just ask them, say, okay, they say that, just ask them, say, am I going to be, when I'm a sub, am I going to be subbing for a person that has a LLV, or am I going to be, just you could ask the person, whoever the supervisor or the postmaster, whoever calls you, say, am I going to be subbing for a person that has an LLV, or do I have to use my own personal vehicle? Just ask them real quick. These are some questions you guys could ask them. The schedule. They, like I said, they tell you you're guaranteed only 1 day a week. And for me, when I was an RCA, that didn't happen. Just when so many people call out sick, or they just need coverage, you're there, So I think that's kind of hard. Just kind of goes back to the CCA, that work-life balance is a schedule. You can't really get it. So I kind of feel like those are kind of the same. My third one would be, as an RCA, I think they may wait a little longer now with this new contract. I feel like because we get converted to, CCAs get converted to PTFs, that's just unassigned regular. But as RCAs, they don't accumulate annual leave, they don't get sick leave, but they're RCAs until however long a route is vacated or opens up, somebody retires, something happens, so that's kind of tough. I think just they wait on a route. I heard stories where people were road carriers and they waited, many years. But those are my 3 pros, 3 cons of the RCA. And then just for the big picture for both sides, I think, is that you're a federal employee. You become a federal employee, you get good retirement, and just like, I guess the cons is just, I don't know how people handle animals, dogs or whatever. If you're cool with dogs, you're all right, this is a job for you, especially if you're a city carrier. But even being a rural carrier, you go out into the rural side, people have their dogs loose out in the countryside. So, and then another one is just blanking my mind. It's the old ways. You got the old ways, of how the post office has done things. I think those things can be updated a bit, and just the old equipment, because the old equipment you'll be pushing, they call them pumpkins, or they call them, like a bin or whatever. You push them and the wheel's like, or the wheel doesn't turn, something. So it's always, I think the equipment could be updated. It's kind of a little old. But yeah, man, just the big picture. But these are my pros and cons to what I think for each job, what they kind of bring. Just remember, just as an RCA, if you're applying for RCA, you got more mounted routes. But you're walking up to the houses just that people have packages. And as city carriers, you're working your 8 hours. You're working your 8 hours, as compared to rural carriers, where if they can bust out a route in 5-6 hours, get paid 8.5, 9 hours for the evaluated route. So these are just kind of some pros and cons to each job, and just kind of what I think. Man, I hope this helps you guys out to choose which craft is best for you, and kind of keep it like that. And I hope you guys all the best. All right, have a good day, and God bless.